Hi, this is Mike Power, President and CEO of Silver Range Resources, and this is an update on our Strongbox property. First, a quick word from our lawyers. Strongbox is located northwest of Beatty and southwest of Gold Point on the California-Nevada border. It's quite close to Death Valley, and it's located in the prolific Walker Lane. Well, Walker Lane is an 800-kilometer long by 100-kilometer wide fault zone that runs from Southern California along the Nevada-California border up into Northern California, where it ends against the Cascade Arch. What it is actually the new San Andreas Fault. It began down in Southern California about 23 million years ago, and it slowly propagated north like a crack in your windshield up to the Cascade Arch, where it's currently ended right now. Displacement across the fault is right lateral, so there's a component that's shifting the Sierra Nevada block north relative to North America, but it's also an extensional component that's moving the Sierra Nevada block away from North America. In detail, it's a topographic trough. In the center part of the zone, it's bounded by a series of northwest striking strike slip faults. These are the major faults, and there's a bunch of subordinate faults in here. And the Strongbox property occurs on the margins of the Walker Lane central belt here, and in a zone of transtension. Now, transtension is a fancy word for a fault that involves both strike slip displacement and expansion or extension, resulting in normal faulting. In detail, these tend to form extensional duplexes like this down here. You can see they're bounded by strike slip faults, and in between are a whole series of normal faults. And these are dandy areas to go look for ore deposits because normal faults open up pathways for hydrothermal fluids. What they typically manifest themselves at are sort of flower structures like this. In plan, they'll have this sort of pattern here. In cross-section, they look a bit like this. The Walker Lane is noted for high-grade gold and silver deposits. Some very famous ones. There's the Comstock up here, and Tonopah and Goldfields down here, and there are other numerous smaller high-grade gold and silver camps along the Walker Lane. And these are associated with tertiary volcanics. And that's the dominant kind of deposit you find here, although there's copper porphyries in the Yarrington area. Strongbox is located away from all of these major epithermal camps, and it appears to be something different. So here's Strongbox, outlined in red. It occurs in this sea of pink rocks. These are Jurassic granites. They're cut by these northwest striking strike slip faults. These are the big major faults in the Walker Lane, and here are the subordinate faults. Let's zoom in a bit, lay the geology on it, and you see that in the immediate Strongbox area, the bedrock at lower elevations is entirely granite. At the higher elevations in the mountains, you see more recent volcanics, including capping basalts. But for the most part, this is a sea of granite. And for that reason, this area has largely been overlooked by modern prospectors because the prevailing thinking is that there's no gold in granites in the Walker Lane. History would suggest otherwise. There have been gold placer operations in this area since before Nevada was a state, first by the Spanish and later by Chinese miners who moved into the upper regions of TULE Canyon in the 1860s. They were followed by hard rock prospectors. Most notable among these was Jack Longstreet, a famous prospector, gunman, and all-around bad hombre who ended his career in the Amargosa Valley area exploring the TULE Canyon region for the lost Breyfogle mine. In 1906, Harry Stimler, one of the three that found Goldfield, moved into the area and led a rush to Roosevelt Canyon, about 2 miles north of Strongbox. Unfortunately, that rush fizzled out. But since the 1860s, there have been sporadic placer and hard rock gold operations throughout this district, most of them undocumented. This is a map from a 1951 Desert History magazine showing mine workings in the TULE Canyon area. In the lower end of TULE Canyon, where Strongbox is located, a character named Tom Jaggers moved in the 1890s. He ran a small hard rock operation down there he called his Dark Secret Mine, the remnants of which consisted of an arrastra in the 1950s. He was noted for going into town always wearing a top hat, a Prince Albert coat, and being very heavily armed. In more modern times, there have been dry wash placer operations, such as you see on the left, and on the east side of TULE Canyon, a fairly modern underground hard rock operation mining some small veins. Neither of these are documented. You can see why Tom Jaggers liked this property. There's widespread gold throughout the area. Basically, anywhere you find bedrock, you have some gold response. Let's take a closer look at the TULE Canyon area where most of the historic work's been done. We've recovered gold in bedrock and float samples on both sides of TULE Canyon. The only bedrock exposures are down on the bottom of TULE Canyon on the east and west sides. That's this area in here, where the Jurassic granites of the Sylvania Pluton are exposed. The adjacent areas on the rest of the claims is covered by this Quaternary alluvium. In the area where there is exposed bedrock, there's a very large alteration zone here. This is an intensely clay-altered granite with kaolinite, aeolite, smectite, limonite, hematite, and locally some calcite and jarosite. In this area, the higher-grade surface gold samples were recovered. On the east side of TULE Canyon, there's an area of underground stoping here and a shaft. We've been unable to recover samples directly from the stopes because they're just a little bit precarious, but it's evident there was some high-grade gold mined on this side of the canyon. Here's a view of TULE Canyon from the south. You can see this large area of clay alteration on the west side of TULE Canyon, some nice hematite staining here. This would be the area of the Dark Secret Mine. And on the east side of the canyon, this is the area where the underground workings are. In the west zone, gold occurs in small shears spaced 10 to perhaps 20 meters apart and on the order of centimeters to up to perhaps a meter wide. You get a feel for the spacing of some of these structures here over in the arroyo where the Dark Secret Mine was located. All of these structures occur within this large clay alteration zone, and there are indications that there may be low-grade gold within the alteration zone itself, because some of the recent placer operations have basically been taking out all of the granite and running it through these little wash plants. We have not confirmed this in any of our sampling. On the east side of TULE Canyon, the granite is less altered. The shears stand up better, and you have a much better situation for underground mining. We're looking at the top of one of the shears here on the east side of TULE Canyon. This is an east-dipping shear. There's good vein development in the footwall, and you can see that it's about 1.5 meters wide. Miners tackled this system over a length of about 130 meters. They drove a number of adits into the wall of TULE Canyon, driving them to the east. They drifted along the vein. They extracted material from a series of stopes and removed it out to the level of TULE Canyon through the adits. Here's a chute at the bottom of one of the stopes. They followed the vein to depth as well in a series of winzes. We don't know how much material was removed from here, and we don't know its grade, but the effort was substantial, so we suspect the grade was pretty good. To get some idea what might be going on beneath the surface gold showings at Strongbox, we ran geophysical surveys there this spring. Total magnetic field surveys were run on 25-meter lines, and horizontal loop electromagnetic surveys were run on 50-meter lines. Let's zoom into the area of TULE Canyon and have a closer look at the results. For reference, this is the clay alteration zone, here's the Dark Secret Mine, and here are the more modern workings on the east side of TULE Canyon. In the 14 kilohertz data, there's a very interesting resistor right here associated with the east zone and the underground workings. It's part of a larger feature that runs the length of TULE Canyon. This is a resistive feature. We believe it might be a fault zone locally silicified here. There's a similar resistive feature shown here that's associated with a break in the magnetic data. In the 220 hertz data, which for reference sees a little bit deeper than the 14 kilohertz data, there's an interesting resistive high here right in the center of the clay alteration zone that's associated with the mineralization in the area of the dark secret mine. Superimposing all of these resistive features on the total magnetic survey results, we see this picture. I should point out that the relief in the total magnetic field data is very low, in the order of only 100 nanoteslas. And as a result, there are some heading and lag errors that show up as corrugations in the data. Nonetheless, we see the following picture. There's a magnetic break here between relatively more susceptible material on this side and less susceptible material on this side, producing a high and a low. There's also a magnetic break here with lower magnetic response here and here. In the area of the dark secret mine, there's an interesting embayment in the magnetic field response, a low. It's often been noted that magnetic lows can be associated with gold mineralization when there's magnetite destruction. There's a magnetic high here, which we believe might actually be a superficial feature. It tends to follow the thalweg of the wash in TULE Canyon. Over here, that easternmost resistor in the 14 kilohertz data seems to be associated with the break in the magnetic field response. What's interesting to us is that if you look in the area where the gold mineralization is, there are two very prominent resistive features. This one that shows up in the 14 kilohertz data and this one that shows up in the 220 hertz data. These are intimately associated with the gold mineralization at surface, and to us, they constitute a compelling drill target. So that's the story at Strongbox. We've located widespread surface gold. There's evidence of past production, both hard rock and placer. Our geophysical surveys have identified potential structures beneath the surface gold, and to us, these constitute compelling drill targets. The next step is to test them. Either with a partner or by ourselves, we'd like to put a few holes into Strongbox and see what's down there. And who knows, there might be other targets out there in the granites, in country long overlooked by modern prospectors. We think we have something similar at our Enigma property further north, and we hope to have results out in a few weeks, so stay tuned.